All right, we are working on the PE COFF deep dive project, and as usual, I am reminding you that if you enjoy this project, if you think it's cool that I'm working on this and you'd like me to be able to keep working on it, I'm counting on viewers like you who can afford it to support for $5 a month or $15 a month, or to look at the yearly option. And there are cool perks here. We're almost done building out the indexed video library. There's always been portions of the video library were indexed since the membership launched, but we've been building out more and more of it, and it's almost completely caught up now. And also remind you that if you go over to the homepage, you can sign up for the newsletter, and that's free, so you can get updates about what we're working on at the lab that way too. All right, so for the PE generator project today, where I left off yesterday, I was working on Unwind info. We did the Unwind dumper, and we set up an Unwind constructor type right here. But we haven't made the API to go with it yet, so that's what we're going to do today. So let's see, base relocations, and then exception handlers, and Unwind info. I think we're going to need an exception handler list just to get started. Also, let me put on some music for myself. There we go. Nice and easy music. Kind of a long name. I wonder if I should call them something other than exception handlers. I'm not sure. It's a long name. But I can't think of right off the top of my head what I will do to replace it, so just moving on. Start position, one past last position. Mark77, hello. How are you? So that gives us a range in terms of labels, plus all the other information that we need, and then first code, last code. These codes can get attached afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Trying to make this look like an API that I will not hate using. Create a list. Position. Man, this is just so many parameters for each one of these. It's kind of a pain. Well, let's try it. Now for slot count, we need to figure out the number of slots. We've already done this once before over here in the dumper. Yeah, this thing right here. See if we pull this out. Properties. PE. Unwind code slot. Num code slot from opcode. Opinfo. Opcode. Mark77 asks a really good question. I'm missing context from previous streams, but do you need to generate here's the main question. Do you need to generate unwind info even if you don't plan on unwinding the stack, i.e. C++ exceptions? Yes, you do. Here's a couple of reasons why you need unwind info. First of all, this is a operating system level decision. So when we're on Windows, this matters even more. Because Windows itself, even when you're not in C++, has a low-level concept of structured exception handling. On Linux, you have signal handlers, where you register a signal handler, and whenever that exception type situation gets raised by the hardware, it gets handled by the operating system by calling one of those signal handlers. On Windows, something different happens. On Windows, you trigger structured exception handling, which is basically low-level stack unwinding implemented by the Windows ABI itself. And so, if you don't register this information, what happens is your program crashes. But if you do set this up, and then you want to do something like the... I don't know if I've ever done this. I don't think I have. Let's see. Base.c... Do we have, like, a try... No, we don't. So, like, did I ever? No. So there's this whole thing on Windows where you can do like this on Windows C, C++ compilers, I believe is what how it looks. Yeah, this thing right here. So it looks kind of like a C++ try-catch. It's a lot more low level. You can only get an integer here, and the things you can throw are very limited. You usually don't throw yourself. This is for catching things like null dereferences, right? If I were to divide by 0 or null dereference here, then this would catch that. Whereas C++ exceptions are built around the idea of like explicitly throwing. There's a little more high level. But another reason to do this, even if you didn't care about making structured exception handling still work with your code, another reason to do this is that this is how something like a debugger is able to give you a stack unwind, right? So if I give you a location where your code is executing and say, debug from here, and I don't give you any other information about what's going on, then you're not going to be able to do a whole lot. If I give you that information about where your code stopped and the stack memory, then you can figure out a little bit about what's going on in the current function. But if you want to know who called you, you need to be able to unwind the current stack and figure out where the previous stack was at, right? And that includes figuring out what instruction pointer needs to get restored when you go back one layer in the stack. And it also means needing to be able to restore the old register values and stuff. So if you want your debugger to show you the list of functions, you need unwind info for that as well. Similarly, if you want it for like a dump, like a crash dump, or error reporting or anything like that. Yeah. Yeah. So the operating system gets to invent an idea of what happens when the hardware raises an exception. Basically, when user space code hits an exception, like a null dereference, the operating system gets to decide what happens from there. And of course, if you have a crash in the kernel, that's what a blue screen is, right? But crashes in our code actually just get escaped out to the operating system to handle. Okay. And the operating systems have different styles there. It's one of the main differences between Windows and Linux that I've had to deal with in my life, is that their exception systems are actually different. I mean, there are plenty of differences in small ways, but that's like a structural difference that seems significant to me. Unwind num code slot from opcode opinfo. Opcode opinfo. Okay. So that's a small step in the right direction. um, okay. Now let's look into our I want to run this to build Mini-Asm. Mini-Asm is currently building a DLL. I'm also up to statically link. Okay. Let's have this actually build Mini-EXE. And for an entry point, I want main. I want to call DLL main CRT startup manually. Hello, Tool, welcome. Alright, so... right, rename this to main. Forcoder, I've been using... Well, let's see, I started Forcoder in the December of 2014. I think I started using it full-time in 2015. So almost 9 years. But of course, the version of Forcoder that we have right now has only existed for about 2 or 3 years. Like, I was iterating on it for a long time there. But yeah, I've been on Forcoder for 9 years. I wish I knew how many active users we have. I know we have some. Let me just pop in. I don't check the Forcoder Discord all the time. But like... Okay, so it was less than a week ago that we had a few people chatting over in the Forcoder main channel Discord. The fork community was active less than a week ago. Yeah, I mean it's still somewhat active. I don't really know how many like super active users there are, but it's not zero. Yeah, and I know BYP was working on it just recently. I saw that on the stream list. I think BYP is responsible for the best Forcoder tutorial that's ever been made, if I remember correctly. And probably most of the community fork work. I know Mixer's been involved and Terius Python has been involved. So I don't know who, like, I am not entirely up to date on who's been doing what there. But BYP's definitely done a lot with Forcoder. Well, if you haven't heard, since we're all here talking about it, this Friday is the first Forcoder Friday of my new Forcoder Friday series, where I'm going to go back, I'm going to get the most recent version of the community fork, and we're going to start reading Forcoder code, and I'm going to start thinking about how Forcoder went. We're going to do a long form retrospective post-mortem on Forcoder and think about how things turned out and what went well and what didn't, and see what we learned. So maybe we'll be able to shed some light on why it doesn't work for some people in the process. Yep, that's this Friday. Same time I usually stream, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, Forcoder Friday. I'm going to be doing that most weeks. I'll have some weeks off, obviously, but anytime I'm streaming on Friday at my usual time, we're going to be doing For Critter Fridays. I also have found a couple of crash bugs recently in For Critter that I might fix. I've been resisting getting back into For Critter dev for a long time, but I found some project file related crashes and bugs that are just under my skin right now. I might try to fix that sometime in the next week or two. We'll see. I haven't contributed to For Coder in over 2 years, so it would be my first time in a long time contributing. And this time I'd be contributing to the community fork, probably. Okay, so we're building Mini EXE. I wanna take a good look at Mini EXE and see if it has any Unwind info. I feel like this here should be generating Unwind info, but I'm not sure. Yes, use the pattern. All right, we have P data for an exception table, and the exception table is full of stuff. Now here's the thing: is I'm currently linking the CRT statically. Let's try to make this file a little smaller by linking the CRT dynamically. And when we do that, we're not going to need this or this anymore, I don't think. Yes. Okay. So we still get P data. It's still got a lot of stuff in it, huh? Okay. Fine. I was hoping it would simplify. Oh, that's a bunch of zeros? What? Oh, did you not... Sometimes it doesn't run the pattern. There we go. So what we did, just there, is we built an executable with a single function in it called main. A little bit of import data to import dynamically the CRT, which was what this contributed to the build. This contributed the information about the imports. And an exception handler for that one function. And the reason there's an exception handler is because we put this, see, if I took this out, then I'm just doing pure assembly. Pure assembly here, no macros, no directives for the thing. And now we get no P data, right? So just so this is clear, these little things, when you're doing MASM, these markups, they're not instructions. They are markups telling the assembler about how you are manipulating the stack so that it can generate correct unwind information. Yes. Reload it. We get the P data. That looks like this. So now we want to figure out 8496. 96 minus 8192. It's 304. Add in 1536. 1840. F off. 730. This thing right here is the unwind info. and it in fact is unwind info. I can recognize that as unwind info. So that unwind info, I need to take notes about what it says. Let me just copy that over here for now. The four-coder clipboard bug. Has anyone ever figured out how to do clipboard on Windows? I noticed that Remedy seems to have problems with it too. The Windows clipboard is, I'm not quite sure what I've done wrong. I've never figured it out, but whenever I write to it, I have that problem that four-coder has, where it just misses copies half the time. And you have to go and copy twice for some reason, and I've never figured out why. I don't know if anyone here who knows four-coder knows what I'm talking about and knows what to do to fix it, but it's one of the bugs I would love to fix in my build if it's something people know how to do, because I get the copy problem all the time. Okay, so what we're dealing with here Yeah, yeah, that's fair enough. Maybe I just need to isolate the clipboard problem and spend a day getting the clipboard right. You know, that'll be one of my four-coder Fridays. Will be just, let's research the Windows clipboard API and figure out how I'm wrong, how four-coder is wrong. On the thing is, like, I fixed it like two or three times. Two or three times, I sat down, I investigated, I came up with what I thought was a solution. I thought I identified a bug. I put it in there. I put in the fix, and then I'd be like, yes, it's fixed. And then, you know, a few days would go by, and I'd notice that it's not fixed. And I'd be like, how did I like what? Well, how is it that during testing this stopped being obviously busted, and now it's obviously busted again? It is every time I tried to fix it too. So I don't know. I'll try again though. It's been a few years since I took a crack at the clipboard bug. Okay, so now I need to go into my generator and I need to build this. To match. So first of all, my text section, what does that look like? All right, we're gonna delete the text section we've got, and we're gonna make it match the one we just built. Just take me there. Okay. I think that's everything we need, but there's like this extra jump right here. I'm just gonna copy all of this. Let's copy that as a C array. Copy as C array. Paste. Okay, so that time it just works. I'm gonna drop this in here. Now I'm gonna go and do. We need to get remedy. Yeah, fourcoder.net is gonna need an update. I haven't moved fourcoder.net over to my new website system that Mr. Forth is on, and I've been trying to think about what I want to do about maintaining fourcoder.net in the future. Maybe I can't do that stuff on stream. It's just tough because I don't make any money on fourcoder now, so it would be just to boost the fourcoder community. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe I'll take a week off of research work to update fourcoder's website at some point. Hello? There we go. Alright, so this is going to load generated DLL. I don't really want that. What I actually want... See, are we generating a DLL right now? Alright, we want to turn off DLL mode. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a journey today, isn't it? What are we getting wrong here? Layout, patch, position dot off, plus target size of 4 is less than patch position dot section f size, which is 38. The offset is 63, so it's way off. What are we doing here? Is this old patches that we had from an old text section, probably? Come on. Text block. Tell me what we're doing here. Text block. Here we're patching. We're exporting. We don't need either of those right now. The entry point is still going to be text block 0. That's true. But what I'm trying to get to is I just want to debug. Give me a new session and let me step into mini.exe. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. I swear sometimes this interface for constructing software that we've built is not that easy to remember what you're doing. It's just... Doesn't seem good enough. Anyway, so let's see, our call stack is continuing to function, so that means that our unwind info is correct. What we are, so this call is going to that jump. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're gonna match up, okay, we're matching up the data we have here with the data with the instructions, right? So sub RSP 28H OX 28H. Let's see, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, then there's all of that. Which is our MOV RCX 401020103010. Then it's 3 bytes For mov keyword putter racks RCX. Add RSP28H. One instruction or one byte for the ret. And then this extra little jump. Keyword putter rip plus OXFD8. Okay. So now I have you know what? This is actually a little misleading. This is got 2 more bytes on it that are invisible, but that's a 4 byte value right there. All right. It's like that. Okay. So the point here is that this needs to look like that. Where are we at here? Calculator, we got 4 plus 7 plus 5 plus 8, 9, 10 plus 3 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 more, 36. That's saying offset number 36. And then we want that to jump to now the block is going to live in the import blocks IAT at position 0. And then we need to build a patch. So that's virtual space relative 32 bits from Match list. Jump to malloc. The IAT of malloc. And the bias of -4. Okay, so I've got the jump fixed. What I don't have yet is our imports are wrong too, aren't they? I need to be able to import malloc. I don't know how. Let's take a quick look. Let's run this again. Okay, we got it. So it's this string right here. Oh, you can't copy that as text. Copy as ASCII string, please. Yes, import that DLL. Looks like the ordinal is 25 and the function name is malloc. So there's our import. You're still crashing. Okay, tell me about that. No. What are we dealing with here? Target position block does not equal 0, but your block does equal 0. What is that about? Got it. If the export list here has nothing in it, then we just don't need any of this. Okay. Block from exports. Okay. Start off null. If the table contains anything, then go ahead and make that block. Otherwise, leave it null. That'll tell it not to put anything there. And we are good with that. So that builds. That should work for getting us our import. I still need to do... Yeah, this is generating the wrong file name. Yes, yes, reload it. Rerun the match. There we go. So we have an import. Which looks good to me. There's our IAT for the import table. There's the import table itself. Now, this I don't know whose data that is, but I believe this right here is our unwind info, and that we can see that that comes. Here's the IAT, here's debug information. Here's P data. Which is pointing straight at this. Okay. All right, so the next step is we need unwind info list. At the very beginning here, along with everything else, unwind info. Get a new unwind info list, like that. And right here next to our text section, where we set up the text section, we'll set up an unwind info. Now we need to get a start position, a one pass last position. That's a pair of labels. That'll look like this. Starts at text block 0, ends at, well, let's see, text. So this was 36, 35, 34, so it ends at 34. Brian Dreezy asks, what debugger are you using on Windows? This is a Remedy BG that I'm using right here. It's also an older version of it. 371 from 2022. I believe there are new versions. So yeah, most recent version is 0407, which I wish I could get a date of when the most recent version was published. From this page. Anyway. Um, oh, I'm not done building the new version. Start position, end position, unwind, info new. Right, so we need to get the flags, prologue size, frame reg, frame off. Now I have over here in my scratch, I've saved this. So the header of 1, that's the version number. So the flags must be 0. The prologue size is 4. The code count is 1, that'll come automatically. The frame is 0, so that means both of these are 0. And yeah, like that right there is meaningless to me. So I'm thinking what I might need to be doing is either I might need to be doing something like unwind info equals 0, info.start position equals maybe do something like this, right? Info.opal position equals this, info.prologue size equals 4, and then pe-gen unwind info push, gen unwind info list info, right? So I would just fill in the info manually and then push it like that. I would still need the pointer when it's done to attach more to it. I could also do it like this, grab that, and then fill it in after the fact. This is usually the way to do it if I want like really simple API. It's just that the one downside to this is that there's no compiler checks that you're actually putting in the effort. So if you, I don't know, maybe this way is the right way to do it. I haven't tried LLDB on Windows. I don't really want anything that's GDB-like. I don't like command line debuggers. I don't see the point. The whole advantage to something like Visual Studio or Remedy or Red Debug to me is that it is visual. Or at least it is visual. It lets you use your capacity for vision for better image or better data processing in your mind than what you get off of a command line interface. Alright, so for the code, we have it over here in the scratch. The offset is 4. The opcode and opinfo, I believe those are 4 bits each, so that's like a 4 and 2. Yeah, opcode looks like it's lower bits. Opinfo is higher bits. So the low bits here is opcode, and opinfo is 4. And we have an x of 0. Upagen. PE gen, there we go. We run the generator. Now, I don't expect to see a huge step forward yet. I do want to see one thing. So, based on how far we've gotten, let me rerun my generator here, or my parser here. We've got, close, just, what is this? Just be easy for me to use. We have two sections, a text section and an R data section, so we don't have unwind info at all. If I were to go into Remedy and say, like, let's make a new project here and let's step into generated exe, I step in, you can't even find the executable. Generated exe. Yeah, give me the full path to it then. Boom, there we go. Okay, so we have stack unwinding here, and then you see the stack got messed up. Do you see that? The stack is gone. And that's because we have messed with the stack, but we don't have unwind info. Compare that to the test case, the one we used the assembler to create, mini exe. When we step into that same machine code, I step, the stack unwinding still works. What's the difference? This one has unwind info. So here I've set up the unwind info. I think this should match, but we need to bake unwind info, right? And unwind info baking is going to be a little complicated because it gets spread across two different sections, but we have a system for dealing with that now. So just like we have import blocks, we're going to get unwind blocks. There are going to be two of them. There's going to be the exception handlers, and there's going to be the unwind info, right? And then we're going to have to call PEGen blocks from unwind info, PEGen context generator, PEGen unwind info list, unwind blocks, PEGen blocks from unwind info, gen unwind info list, info code, and now create a couple of new blocks. Let's see here. For each unwind info that we have in our list, what we're going to do is we generate an exception handler Okay, we go PEGen block push array. That's how we do it. We give it the generator context. Give it the generator context. The this goes on to the exception handlers block. And we want one of them. Oh, and the type is this. Right, so we generate one of those onto the exception handlers block. And then on the unwind info, well, let's see. First of all, let's fill in the... No, let's do both. So the unwind info... Nice, those are labels already. These are going to go into a PE unwind info. So again, we push onto a block. This time we're pushing onto the unwind info block. One PE unwind info. And those are easy to fill out because those are just things we already know about here. The flags are the high 3 bits. And the version is always a 1. The prologue size is just the prologue size. The code count is the info code slot count. And the frame I apologize about the noise. The frame is the frame register combined with the frame offset. And now, the PE info isn't everything that we need. We also need to do the codes that we have attached. So each node contains one of those codes, which we get from info first code and then iterating. And for each one, we're going to calculate the number of slots. Same way we've done it in other spots in the code base. We look at the code's opcode and opinfo to figure out the number of slots. And then we allocate U16 slots equals gen block push array gen unwind info U16 num slots. Okay. Now, slot 0 is always going to get ah. Okay. Goodbye to you. Here we go. So the offset is contained inside of the code. The opcode and opinfo are all contained right there inside of our code. Now, that's just for slots 0. If the number of slots is greater than 0, then we're going to memory copy into slots plus 1 from code X the number of extra slots we have times the size of a U16. So that should fill in the opcodes, or the unwind codes for this. When it's done, if I remember correctly, what we observed was that it likes to realign to a boundary of 8, probably. Let me open up another one of these just to get like a different more complex version. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't know anything about unwind info. So F4 is currently doing a run dump, which dumps test exe and puts it here. Gives us unwind info with code count equals 2 being a thing that exists. Voff 2e0d4. Okay. Looking at pdata, the 188, nope, too big. R data. Oh, that's just data. R data. Yeah, so that's where it lives. Because that goes up to 195. Yeah, so that's right there. So that minus 135,168 gives you 53,000. You add that to 130,560 gives you 184 for the file position, which is 2CED4. Okay, so there we go. There's the beginning of an unwind info. There's an opcode right there. And there. So yeah, it took 2 slots, and then it aligned to 4 for the next one. Do you see that? 2 slots aligned to 4. This right here, I don't know if you can recognize it. That's the beginning of an unwind info. They all look like that, sort of. They got that version 1 bit at the very beginning. That right there tells us how long the prologue is, so it's usually around 10 to 16, which is what that is doing. And then this one right here is telling us how many slots there are. There's 1 slot, and then it aligns to 4 again. Okay, so having looked at that, I think the best bet is after we do an info and a series of codes, that we then do PEGen block align gen unwind info align to 4. And you want a fill byte. Now, to fill the exception handler, we just need to see what its fields are. Okay, so begin voff is going to have to get set by PEGen label. Well, hold on. Where's our... We might not need labels here. Yeah, PEGen patch voff32 gen patch list begin voff end voff unwind voff. So we just need to set each of these voffs, which we will do with patches. This first voff wants to point at, well, it came to us via a label actually. If we go back here and we look at the info that we are looking at, we've already handled this to create the PE info. We filled in the unwind codes from this, but this start position, opal position lives on the info that we've got that we still haven't used. That is where that shows up. So we save them as labels, and that way we can pass them as labels here. Very cool. This one points straight at the unwind info right here. So that pointer is going to point at this. These point at whatever ranges were put into the unwind info in the first place. And now the only problem is I'm not passing the patch list as a parameter to the blocks from unwind info. But I can. Okay, so the generator's crashing, so let's take a look at why that might be. No. PE-gen exe. Yes. Run. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try it one more time. Open. PE-gen RDGB. Run. What are we missing here? The section. Is the section bogusy? And where'd that layout patch position come from? That came from the patch list itself. Okay. Well, let's take a look at these. We're only expecting to see this once. Start position, it's not null. End position, not null. Okay. So I don't think either of those could be the problem, unless... Yeah, no, that's coming out fine too. Patch position putter. So we get patch position as that block plus an offset of 0. That makes sense. So what is this one doing? That got a real block as well. That's the very beginning of this block. That's the very beginning of this block. Yeah, okay. But this is not the very beginning of the block. That should... Okay, but none of these are null. So when I look at the list of patch positions, I don't understand, I don't see any spot here where we would end up with a null. Okay, it's the section layout patch position section. Okay, so what's happening here is that we're doing layout position from label and it's not going in anywhere because we haven't laid out the blocks yet. Okay, so that's the kind of bug that would be easier to understand what's happening once I have this check, this runtime check in place. Okay, so we need to lay out the unwind blocks so that the pointers between them actually can resolve. So I believe we want to put gen rdata unwind blocks.unwind info right here. And we also want to make exception handlers. the exception table. Yes. The exception table should be the exception handlers, and then the exception handlers should also be put into a block called pdata. What are the properties of pdata in something like test? Like, what are the flags? Characteristics, yeah. We've got contains initialized data. Where is this? So we have it contains initialized data. Read only, okay. So this is read, not write, contains initialized data. Is our data writable? Why would our data be writable? I think it must be because we use our data with like instruction patching and stuff, like the yeah, if we look at characteristics, we've got contains initialized data, we've got read. It doesn't actually say that it's writable. I think maybe our data should not be writable either. All right. So that sets up a pdata section. Oh, we need to set the correct block here. This needs to be the unwind blocks dot exception handlers. Okay, still crashing. I'm gonna take my 5-minute break here, and no, let's not do it that way today. I'm gonna take my 5-minute break here, and when I get back, we will finish trying to export unwind info. Okay. So, crashes when I try to generate. Tell me why. Okay, got it. This is the worst problem that I have, which is that I have to know how many sections I'm generating up front in order to make the system work. And that sucks. If I didn't need to know this, it could be like, hey, we're building, we're adding sections, we are figuring out how many sections there are as we go. The problem is, for base relocations in particular, we needed to actually have the layout. So add section has to actually know where it's placing the section in order to generate the base relocations. Well, anyways, I'll think about that again soon. Definitely seems like a problem at this point. There we can generate it. Yes, reload generated exe and reparse it. We should now have a pdata section. We do. It recognizes that as an exception table with one element that ranges over our beginning of our text section, points at 8208. 8208 is going to be here in the R data section. 8208 minus 8192. 16 plus 1536, 610 in hex. That's this guy. There it is. And then we get our import table. So if everything is right here, yeah, I think we should be able to step through generated exe now, and this, our stack should keep working. There it is. That's the difference. All right, so just to show it off, if I skip on unwind info and I build, then I should just get empty blocks. Ooh, that didn't work. Blocks from unwind info 0 0 0 0. Add section. I think we have to do if this does not equal 0 right here for now. That's not good enough. All right. No, give me this again. What are we missing? Total text size. Final. Huh? Why didn't you build a final? The section count is off again. Okay. Pdata, add section. Block flatten. Yeah, that should just work. Okay, so what's going on here? Okay. So if block does equal 0, we'll just end up filling this up with null. Like it'll be an empty section, but it'll still generate. Now, my question is, can we, whoops, step through that? Okay, so you can't run that. So I'm gonna assume that the answer is you can't make empty sections. Which means if we do this, then we have to come up here and change the number. And then it'll work. And then it'll step in. And now it loses its stack. Right? So that's the whole point I wanted to demonstrate. If I step in now, and I step over the first instruction, it loses the ability to unwind the stack in the debugger. If I include the unwind data and include the pdata section, and I generate that way, then when I step, we keep our stack. Cool. Looks like we can do that. I still don't know what this is about. Might want to track that down before I call it good. Okay. 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 I think that this is probably a good spot to stop at for today. Maybe think about what's going to come next. So we've got unwind info. Basically, the generator for that is working. We can throw in debug info pretty easy. I might just do that off stream. It's so easy because it's just you're just stuffing a string and a couple of flags into a part of the R data section and sticking it into the data directory. It's trivial compared to other things that we've already done. So from here, I think the next big step I think the next big step is, well, it's not clear. I think we might be done with the PE generator now. It might be time to think about either generating object files and putting them through a linker and seeing if we can get a linker to accept our object files. Or cleaning up. There's a need for a cleanup pass, but we haven't really gotten to feature completeness yet. I think the ability to generate object files would be nice. And that would lead into us having a good understanding of both the object file version and the image file version of the PE-COFF format. Once we have a good vision of both of those for both dumping and generating, then we are in good shape to start visualizing and experimenting with new ways of stitching and modifying these, stitching these together and modifying them on the fly and stuff. So yeah, I think object files. I think that's the right next step. I can't think of anything else more immediately interesting. Okay. So let's call that the plan. Let's also look real quick over here in dump H or dump C. I've got another to-do list. Yeah, that one's done. Research queues, yeah. All right. All right, I think we're good. I think we're good. Nice. Okay. With that, I am going to wrap up for today. Thanks for coming to hang out. And as always, here's a couple reminders. One, if you go to mrforth.com/membership, you could consider becoming a supporter or a member for either a monthly or a yearly way to keep the projects going. And there are some cool rewards that come along with that. We've almost finished getting the entire YouTube backlog on Mr. Forth Programming indexed into the index video library. That includes all of the arcs plus video essays. It does not include podcast episodes or like the soundtracks or art videos, but all of the educational programming stuff, educational programming content is all in there. You can also get early announcements and devlogs and stuff, all kinds of things if you become a member. You can also get the newsletter for free over on the homepage. Don't forget to do that to get announcements. And speaking of announcements, this Friday, so 2 days from today, I will be streaming 4Coder Friday, where I'll be opening up the current version of the community fork and reading 4Coder source for the first time in a couple of years, and doing some retrospectives on it, learning from it in the sense that I'll be pointing out where there are things that I did in certain ways that I think could have been done better, and why I ultimately think that if I was going to work on a new editor, I would not do it by starting with 4Coder anymore. It's not that I think 4Coder is terrible, but there's some stuff in there I've always wanted to be in a code base that was better than the 4Coder one if I was going to go back to it. So we're going to start talking about why and exploring and seeing if there's a viable way to sort of rewrite portions of it to make a new, better editor code base. So yeah, that might be fun. Come check that out in 2 days on Friday. And otherwise, tomorrow I'll be back here working on this stuff again. And thanks for coming and checking out what I'm doing. I will see y'all around the internet. Bye.